What's the root of all of the anti-Israel protests? I mean, you have students erupting all over the country on different campuses for this particular cause. Meanwhile, there are a lot of other more intense, more severe, more destructive causes that are going on now and have happened in the past. And really, it's just kind of crickets. What is at the core of this particular development in the Middle East, of this war in the Middle East, that is causing such a stir, such an organized stir at that, across the world? Check out this clip where Ben Shapiro kind of goes through the whole idea of what's really undergirding these particular protests on campus. But before we watch that clip, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. And if you really want to stay in touch, come connect on Instagram as well. Check this out.
Ben Shapiro, get alive!
The truth is, for a very long time, professors and administrators at major college campuses have been supportive of terror groups, including Hamas and Hezbollah, going all the way back to when I was in college. What's happening right now is that the mask is coming off and people are beginning to notice. All of that was hidden under the surface of broader, quote-unquote, anti-Zionist concerns, or opposition to policies of the State of Israel, or oppositions to Benjamin Netanyahu. And it turns out that all of that was a lie, that what that really was simply a cover for Jew hatred, which is why you're seeing mass protests in favor of Hamas. That's why you're seeing solidarity on behalf of Hamas. I've yet to see any of these professors actually condemn what Hamas did or call for Hamas to be deposed in the Gaza Strip.
It was exhilarating, it was energetic. I was exhilarated.
If they actually wished for a two-state solution, Hamas going would actually be the precondition to any of that happening. None of them are calling for any of that. They're not calling for the release of hostages. All they're calling for is a ceasefire that would allow Hamas to continue to survive. That comes from one of two places: either actual radical Islamism, which is a serious problem in Middle Eastern studies departments around the country and among administrators and among some students, or it's a moral relativism and an intersectional theory of the world in which the quote-unquote powerless and dispossessed are an alliance against the more powerful, and the Jews are quote-unquote the more powerful. And what you're seeing is all these organizations that are aligned against all sorts of discrimination and marginalization except for the Jews. When it comes to the Jews, because the Jews are too powerful, because the Jews are quote-unquote white, because the Jews are quote-unquote colonizers, that means that the Jews can be targeted at women at will. And what Hamas is doing is actually an act of decolonization. It's freedom fighting, it's not actual baby murder.
If we don't step up boldly and courageously to end the imperialist project that's called Israel, we're doomed.
Shapiro! Shapiro! Shapiro!
Yeah, it's certainly not easy to be a conservative on college campuses these days. You have a lot of administrators who are directly opposed to your point of view. You have administrators who are willing to look the other way at students who are mistreating you on campus. And of course, you have student groups and groups of students who are out to, in some cases, even physically harm you. It takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of concerted willpower to go into the battle. But my mentor, Andrew Breitbart, used to say that walking toward the fire was always the best strategy, because the further you walk into the fire, the more you realize how little it burns. And that's certainly true for college students, who very often take these strong stands and it feels terrible in the moment. And then as they keep walking forward, they realize it's building a strength in them they didn't know they had.
And you know what? We're making our presence known. We're proud fags and trannies, and we're not going anywhere.
It's unbelievably important that you have to be on college campuses. College campuses have been overtaken by moral relativism and stupidity. Many of them are, frankly, not worth the paper the degrees are printed on at this point, but that's why YAF exists, is to make those degrees actually worthwhile by providing an opposing point of view, by giving students a place to go where they can get some logic and some reason and some decency, all things that seem to be in abeyance at major universities across the country.
I believe the reason why they are religiously extreme is because of the conditions that they live under, because of the actions of America.
That's absurd and foolish. I'm sorry, that's absurd and foolish. At a certain point, people are going to have to take responsibility for their own actions and stop blaming America and the West for making shitty decisions. What YAF is doing on campus is really important, because in exposing what's going on college campuses and bringing outside voices in, that does take the mask off. And what that means is that either higher education is going to have to change or it's going to die. I'm very happy to see that alum of schools are pulling their money from these universities. I've been advocating that for literally decades. I'm sad that it took until now for people to realize that signing checks to universities that hate your values, hate America, hate Israel, hate a lot of decent things, that it took until now for people to realize that and stop signing checks to those things. But it's about time for that to happen. I'm hopeful that outside pressure from both donors and students, parents, and the business community, that could change educational institutions into what they once were, places of education.
Well, there you have it. Those ideas were always present, or at least for quite some time, but now the mask is off. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. And if you really want to stay in touch, connect with us on Instagram at Pinchas Taylor. Love to stay in touch. Take care.